Good evening. It's 7 o'clock on Tuesday, May 15th, 2018. I'd like to call tonight's Board of Selectmen meeting to order. If you would please join us in the recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. All right, first up this evening, we have a public forum, limited to 5 minutes per topic. Discussion or comments about town employees or agency members shall be avoided so as not to violate individuals' rights. Is there anyone here this evening for public forum? All right, seeing none. Why don't we move on to the minutes from our May 1st meeting?
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the Board of Selectmen's minutes from May 1st, 2018 as presented.
Second.
Hearing a motion and second. Any further comments or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 3-0. And next up, looks like we have executive session minutes as well.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the executive session minutes from May 1st, 2018 as presented.
Second.
Hearing a motion and second. Any further comments, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes 3-0. All right, looks like before we get into our agenda items, we have a couple of recognitions for Girl Scouts. Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Town of Sutton, Massachusetts Certificate of Recognition in grateful acknowledgement of many years of faithful service to the Girl Scouts of Central and Western Massachusetts and the Town of Sutton. It is hereby resolved by the Town of Sutton and the Sutton Board of Selectmen that this Certificate of Recognition is awarded to Caitlin Reed for achieving the 2018 Silver Award status in Girl Scouting. Whereas Caitlin is a member of the Girl Scouts, has given generously her time and effort, and has served in dignified, faithful, and Girl Scout-like manner. And be it further resolved that the Sutton Board of Selectmen, on behalf of all residents of Sutton, commend and congratulate Caitlin Reed on this most prestigious achievement. The Board of Selectmen and the Town of Sutton are proud to wish Caitlin well in all future endeavors. Then we have a second certificate as well. Town of Sutton, Massachusetts Certificate of Recognition in grateful acknowledgement of many years of faithful service to the Girl Scouts of Central and Western Massachusetts and the Town of Sutton. It is hereby resolved by the Town of Sutton and the Sutton Board of Selectmen that this Certificate of Recognition is awarded to Bridget Halloran for achieving the 2018 Gold Award status in Girl Scouting. Whereas Bridget, as a member of the Girl Scouts, has given generously her time and effort and has served in a dignified, faithful, and Girl Scout-like manner. And be it further resolved that the Sutton Board of Selectmen, on behalf of all residents of Sutton, commend and congratulate Bridget Halloran on this most prestigious achievement. The Board of Selectmen and the Town of Sutton are proud to wish Bridget well in all future endeavors.
All right, thank you, Dave. Congratulations, Caitlin and Bridget, for their hard work. Definitely looks like they put their hours in, that's for sure. All right, first up this evening on our actual agenda items, we have a public hearing involving a liquor license at Valancourt Folk Art. Before I open the public hearing, why don't we read the notice as posted in the Chronicle?
Town of Sutton Board of Selectmen Notice of Public Hearing. Notice is hereby given under Chapter 138 of Mass General Law that a public hearing will be held on May 15th, 2018 at 7:05 p.m. on a request by Valancourt Folk Art by Gary Valancourt, manager of record, for a Section 15 wine and malt off-premise license at 9 Main Street, Manchog Mills, Sutton, Mass. This hearing is open to the public and shall be held in the Wally Johnson Meeting Room on the 3rd floor in the Sutton Municipal Center located at 4 Uxbridge Road in said Sutton. This was posted in the April 26, 2018 Millbury Sutton Chronicle.
All right, thank you. I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Jim, can you tell us a little bit about this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sure. This is one of 5 off-premises beer and wine licenses, so to speak. There are 3 currently issued. This is an application for the 4th, and we have a 5th one outstanding. So we do have them available. This is a request that, as Dave had mentioned, by Valancourt Folk Art. They're requesting to sell this wine as a collectible along with their fine chalkware as well. If the board approves this license, the board will be required, and I'm assuming the chairman will sign a letter to the ABCC, because under Section 16, if it's within 500 feet of a school, a preschool, Puckey Huddle Preschool is across the street, then it's required that the licensing authority send a letter to ABCC. But, you know, all departments have signed off on it. The police chief has signed off on it. We haven't heard back from Puckey Huddle, but they did receive the notification, so that's all I have.
All right, excellent. Is there anyone here to speak about this evening? All right, why don't you come up and introduce yourselves to the community? Not that you really need to do so.
All right, so I am Luke Valancourt, my father Gary Valancourt, and of course my mother Judy Valancourt.
Before you get too far, I'm just going to ask you, make sure you speak into the mics, just so that way they can hear you at home.
All right, definitely. So as you know, Valancourt Folk Art has been in business here in Sutton since 1984. And really we've been able to stay in business because of our fine art quality, our reputation, and also for the fact that we've been able to adapt, you know, with the evolving consumerism in the world. And it's important for us to, you know, to realize that we don't just sell Christmas collectibles in our store, but we really sell Christmas traditions and you know, a feeling of the holidays. Last month we partnered with a coffee company in Worcester that does their own roasting, and what we developed there was a holiday coffee where we brought together different beans from around the world to really epitomize, you know, the Christmas season of coming together. What we'd like to do is do the same thing but with the wine. So we've partnered with Latitude Beverages, which is a Boston-based winery. And what we're trying to do is create a limited edition Christmas wine. And it's really to essentially, again, bring that feeling of Christmas, the holidays, the seasons together. My mother, Judy, will be designing the label. It's a wine that we'll introduce once a year, and then once it's sold out, so it's a limited batch. And the goal is really to speak to our collectors, the Valancourt collectors that will want to, you know, buy this wine. We want to speak to wine collectors that will want to collect wine. We want to speak to the casual consumers that may just want a nice Christmas wine for their home. And then also we're hoping to tap into people that want to buy gifts for the Christmas seasons, for stocking stuffers, host parties, and things like that. And that's why we're really here tonight is, you know, to apply for the beer and wine license so that we can sell the private label coffee in our physical store in Sutton, right in the Manchog Mills during our normal operating hours, which is approximately 9 to 5.
Copy of the wine tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say coffee? I meant the wine, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, we may. But, you know, everything that we do really revolves around quality and reputation and, above all, Christmas tradition. So that's really what we're trying to set forth with this, doing the Valancourt wine.
I think when we first started the process, it's a little bit overkill. We really want to sell one bottle of wine for probably 3 or 4 months a year. And so, I mean, but we need a license, so that's why we're here.
Yeah.
What I envision it really, and I talked to the police chief in quite a bit of detail, I mean, we will have no signs outside. We're not advertising beer and wine. We're not looking to create a liquor store or a wine store. I mean, it really is designed as our customer base. The other thing is that we have a number of wholesale accounts like Colonial Williamsburg and a number of major accounts that will probably buy it. And the distributor has set up so that they can do all of the drop shipping and handling of that off-site so we don't have to deal with it. It really is branding. It's really just come up with one more product. And the idea for us is, if you recognize where we are, is that our traffic flow is really October, November, December. January through September, we have visitors, quite a bit, but they're all from out of town. So it's really designed as something to really as a gift, as an add-on gift. Whether we can sell as much wine as we have to buy, I have no idea. But it's Luke's idea, and Luke's been playing with it. So we will not. My store demographic is typically over the age of 35. I don't think I've seen anybody under the age of 21 come into the store in a long time. When the police chief asked me, I said, you know, I don't see anybody walking in to just buy the wine, because it's not going to be an inexpensive bottle of wine. Right. So I don't see it as a threat to our next door neighbors who do beer and wine. I just don't see us being a threat. It's really catered to our own audience, and that's what we're looking for.
Okay, excellent. Would you mind if I open it up to the board, to see if my colleagues have any questions or comments?
Sure.
John?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is kind of different now, because it was always Gary and Judy, and now it's the Three Musketeers. But it's for the common good, and I am a seasonal buyer there every year, and I look forward to going to there. And it's nice to have new things. And now you've come up with this concept of wine, but I'm sure the design on the bottle is gonna be unique. My one question would be for Judy, I guess. Are you gonna number them like you do the Starlights?
That's the goal. That is the goal, to make it a limited batch like that, so they're each numbered.
I think that would be, for me, I think that would be a nice thing, you know? I mean, everyone kinda likes number 1 and number 2 and things like that. And then the other thing, honestly, we know you as a family. You've been in this town for many, many years. We have not any blemishes on anything that you've ever done, either Manchog Mills or Amesbury Road, and it's been rewarding to have you in this town and promote what you do, the goodness of Sutton. So, and my other thing is, as you did state, Gary, Luke, the $30 bottle of wine, it's not your local campground person that's passing through and gonna get a loaf of bread and something else and a 6-pack of beer and going up to the package store or something like that. It's not anyone that's gonna come in, 'cause there's no signage, and get a bottle of wine and walk down the sidewalk. Everything you do is, you know, it's just over and above, and I look forward to something like this, and I support this 100%.
I mean, it's a gamble for us. I mean, it's an awful lot to go through to buy a bottle, to do a bottle of wine. I mean, we have to buy quite a bit of it. And, you know, but if you don't change and you don't try things, it doesn't work. And this is Luke's game, and he knows what he's doing, so we'll find out. See me on December 31st with how many bottles of wine.
Come in for the sale.
Yeah. Thanks, John. Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, of course, for coming. I actually, so I could echo everything that John said, but, so I do that, but now I have some other questions as well. So I sort of understand your point that it probably by its nature is not something that you would expect to have underage purchases, you know, the people coming in and trying to buy. Nonetheless, we have to make sure that we have the rules kind of in play and understood. So you need to have training for the people that are serving, and so we've gone through all of that, or we will go through all of that?
We both have done our tip study, our tip certificate.
Tip certification, yeah.
Tip certified.
Yep, and what I'll do is that I have 2 full-time girls in the store, and we'll have them tip certified as well.
Okay,
And we'll keep the log at the register and all of that, so.
Yeah.
So yes, we understand what's required.
okay. Because as you know, at this point, we do regular
Compliance checks.
compliance operations, thank you. And so you would not be exempted from that, you know, and although it seems like low risk, we have to be sure.
If somebody comes in under the age of 25 and wants to buy a bottle of wine, every flag will go up in our store.
Right.
But yes, we do have our certifications, and we will have our girls at the desk.
Okay.
As well.
Well, really, that's really the only concern that I would have. You know, I think, you know, I think, as you state, the opportunity to expand your business and look for new ways to bring in customers all makes sense to me, and I think the idea sounds like a perfect fit for what you do, and you know, from that perspective, I think it's a great thing, and I wish you luck.
I think the key for us also is our internet business, and having a distributor that's able to do that legally is wonderful, because our branding is quite national, and we have quite a few stores who have, a lot of museums have their licenses. So to have somebody that can handle that aspect without us dealing with it is terrific, and will help us offset some of the costs of having to do that, so it's there. The other thing I wanna say is, and I know our neighbors are here from the convenience store up the street, and I don't see any conflict of trying to compete with them or trying to have any issues with that at all. It's a different clientele. It's a limited purchase, and it's a higher end purchase, I think, than up the street. So I don't see us hurting you guys at all. But that's just my opinion.
Mr. Fucci, do you have a question?
Red wine or white
So the first batch will probably be a red wine. So we've done a couple studies of our consumers, of our customers, of what they like, and Cabernet is probably going to be, what we'll do for the first year. Probably based out of California, Alexander Valley.
Good question.
Yeah.
Important question.
You guys weren't gonna ask it.
It's like, I think your advertising is done.
We had our collectors weekend 2 weekends ago, and we had 100 collectors from all over the country fly in, from Washington State, Oregon, Texas, all over. We did a taste test of 4 or 5 different wines, and they actually agreed with what Luke wanted, which makes it a lot easier, because I'm not sure what they want any other way.
Right.
You gotta hire the right people, the ones that agree with you.
It's like, oh, I'll take the surveys.
All right, well, I guess I am last. I mean, what can I say? Gary, Judy, Luke, you have done a phenomenal business in this community for many, many years. And when I think of Christmas time, I think of Valancourts. And I'll admit it, I'm a collector. I have the pieces all over the house. Although I'll tell you one thing, I'm hoping once again we get one of those Sutton snowmen reappearing, because I got a couple of those, and it'd be nice to add a few more. But
That was through the school.
I know. It was a great.
That group turned over, so it was.
Oh, did they? No, that's unfortunate. But I love it. I love it. And again, I've been going to the Dickens plays that you have annually, and again, truly, Valancourts is Christmas. So I'll be honest with you. I'm going to completely agree with my colleagues. I see no issue with this whatsoever. It's going to be a seasonal offering. It's going to be around Christmas time. And to me, it's going to be more of a collectible, really, than a drinking opportunity. Particularly if you go the numbering route, as John had mentioned. I'm going to have to be down there. I'm going to watch Luke's for his emails to be first in line to be able to get bottle number 1. But I see it going more of that route, because you do have collectors not only across the nation, but internationally. So I have no issue with this whatsoever, and I wish you all the luck. That's for sure.
Thank you.
I mean, we're a successful business, but we're a small business.
You are.
And we need to work hard to make things happen. And this is an area to take us into another direction of consumables, which may bring in some more traffic. And that's our struggle for the first 8 months of the year. So we're hoping that the coffee and things like that, and whatever Luke comes up with next, is just a way to get people in.
Well, if you don't mind me saying it, you are a family. And that's what makes you so wonderful.
We're on it.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
You gonna send out a postcard with the bottle design on it for your customers?
Well,
No.
what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to get on Luke's email list.
Well, but the reality is Judy was informed that he needs a label right away, and she's in the middle of 50,000 projects. And I need a label when? Yeah.
But if approved, we will market it to no end.
I'm sure that you'll get cards or postcards or emails, whatever it is, so.
Excellent, wonderful. Seeing how this is a public hearing, I have to open it up to the audience. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to have any comments? Yes, sir. Why don't you just come up and introduce yourself into the mic?
Sure, everybody knows me, I think. Gary does anyway. My name's Neil Kreitz. from
Just
Manchog.
speak into the microphone if you don't mind, Neil.
Neil Kreitz. I live at 447 Putnam Hill Road.
Mhm.
And I also happen to own the property where the Crossroads Variety is at this time. But in support, I'm here on 2 levels here. Gary Valancourt has been a great asset to Manchog Mills. I'm retired from there, but to this moment, I can say that they are top of the line. And I'm fully supportive of what they're doing. I have one key question in respect to the fact that I'm a landlord with a convenience store with a liquor license, selling all aspects of beer and wine and liquor. What in the event, at the time of they decide to close their business down or sell their business, the transferable of this particular permit, is it have to go through the public hearing again? What would prevent that from becoming a full-fledged package store, for example, at that particular location?
Yeah, we would have to have a public hearing,
Full
and
hearing,
we don't have any other full package store licenses available.
Well, as far as liquor license, right? I
Right, full liquor
understand that.
license, but
The
it
beer and wine.
Beer and wine.
yep, beer and wine.
But ultimately, what would happen is if the business closed, they would be required to turn the license back to the town. Then the license would be available. And if another package store wanted to open at that location, they would need to come before the town, fill out the application paperwork, and request a public hearing.
Well, that was my basic question, and again, I want to show full support for the Valancourt Folk Arts because I think they do specialty items, and as you've all mentioned, it's a pleasure to go in there.
Yeah.
And they're two great, well, including Luke here. I only got to work with him the last couple of years that I was down there, but I'm basically supportive because Gary called me right up front and said that he was doing specialty wine, specialty beers, holiday time. And it brought concern to me, and that's why I'm here on both behalves, and getting your thought on what would happen in the event that they decided to close that situation.
Well, I commend you for doing that. I appreciate that. I'm sure my colleagues do as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Is there anyone else that has any comments in the audience? All right, seeing none, I'm gonna ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman,
So we're gonna talk afterwards, right? Just
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
just read the motion now.
Well, we need to motion to close the public hearing, and then we're gonna discuss.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All right, hearing a motion second. Any further comments or discussion on closing the public hearing? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so now it's time for us as a body to deliberate. John, do you have any comments?
No, I think what I said was straight and forward, and I'm in full support of them getting this type of license. I don't think it's any harm of detrimental, any type of not being a good thing for the community.
Thank you. Dave?
Actually, I do have some comments and questions. So I guess I'll start with recognition that we have some correspondence in our package. So we have some, did you want to go that way?
You could go that way if you want. Be my guest.
I wasn't planning to read it verbatim, or do you want me to do that?
You can summarize if you'd like. I don't think we necessarily need to read it into the record.
So we have correspondence from representatives of Crossroads Variety, who of course is kind of right around the corner from Valancourt, who owns and operates a package store there, with some concerns about whether it's appropriate to have essentially two businesses kind of co-located or located so closely together, and suggesting that we as a board have an opportunity to not issue this license based on public need. So I wanted to recognize that we have this letter. You know, I personally would refer back to a case that we had before us when Market 32 was coming to town, and they wanted to open a liquor store across the street from an existing liquor store. At that time and today, my feeling is that I don't feel like it's my job on this board to regulate competition. And so, you know, for me, deciding where they should go in relation to another store, at least in terms of the competitive piece of it, just doesn't sort of feel like a thing that bothers me a lot. I think the market will take care of that. You know, I actually have a second question for the board that might be a little bit related. The number of liquor licenses available to us here in the town is limited. There's only one more left, the beer and wine license available after this one. And what the Valancourts are asking for is a very limited thing. And so the question that I would have is it the right thing to issue a license where the need is, or the use is going to be so limited? Because it is valuable and could be available to somebody that wanted to use it more widely. So I asked that, recognizing that we still have a license available, and I'm not aware of really a lot of other people asking for this kind of thing. So I'm asking it more theoretical than it is really practical in this case, because, you know, I guess even as I ask it, my own feeling about it is, I guess I ask because I think it's a thing we should consider, although I feel like if I thought there was more competition, I might feel differently, but because I really don't think there's a lot of competition for it, I don't feel like it would be a reason for us to hold back, but I felt like it was a thing we should at least discuss.
Appreciate that. Do you have any thoughts?
Well, no, but it's gonna be there for sale for 12 months, right? And as long as we have another license available right here, it's not like putting us under the gun and saying their use is gonna be limited. I don't really think it's gonna be a problem, an issue.
My only question on that would be, were we ever at a point where we were out of these type of licenses in recent history?
No, and, the fact is, we have a number of restaurant licenses, all alcohol, beer and wine, et cetera. So if anybody wanted to open a restaurant in town, and they want to serve alcohol, we've got more than enough permits to give out. This is just off-premises beer and wine.
And I think that would probably be
And we
the
do have
more
another
likely
one.
applicant.
That's correct.
And at the same time, I guess the last comment I have, even though I don't feel like it's our job to regulate competition, I think I agree with what Gary said. This just doesn't feel like a lot of competition to me, that the nature of what you're doing versus what the package store is doing just feel like different things to me anyway. So in terms of that public need thing, I think this serves a whole different market, and so I'm not concerned about it. And then I guess just the last thing is we should probably talk about the Pucky Huddle issue, and again, I think if that were a problem for me, I think the liquor store itself would be more of an issue than the limited kind of specialty sale that this is. So I'm in favor of issuing that letter and fine with it, so.
All right, excellent. Yeah, on that, I mean, ultimately, we as a Board of Selectmen, we are the licensing authority in the town, and it's up to us to deliberate and decide or at least as a proper way to be able to address the public need, as stated in the letter. And again, I don't necessarily know, well, as was stated, that there's a lot of people banging down the door looking for these licenses. And to me, the definition of public need, at least from my perspective, is us as a board helping out businesses in town that want to look out of the box and maybe add another product line, doing something special that would able to, or at least be able to serve the public good. So ultimately, I think the request definitely falls within that definition. So I'm comfortable with that aspect. And similarly, I'm also comfortable with the proximity in terms of Pucky Huddle. I don't know what the hours of Valancourt's is in comparison to Pucky Huddle, but I can't imagine you're gonna have too many parents dropping kids off at the preschool and then running across the street, picking up a bottle of wine. And to your point, if that was going to happen, it might be a parent going over to Crossroads, where they might be able to get bread or milk or other products that are available. So again, it's within the law that we have discretion, and I don't necessarily see an issue of it, just because, again, what's going to be offered, and when and how it's going to be offered.
Yeah, thank you. I just thought it was appropriate to at least have the discussion before we issue the letter, so.
Yeah. All right, excellent. So, does anyone else have any other thoughts? All right, then why don't we look to see if we can entertain a motion on this?
Okay. Mr. Chairman, Agenda 2, motion to approve a Section 15 wine and malt off-premises liquor license request from Valancourt Folk Art at 9 Main Street, Manchog Mills, Sutton, Mass. Gary Valancourt, manager of record.
Second.
All right, hearing a motion, hearing a second. Are there any last thoughts, any last comments? All right, all those in favor of this motion?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck. Hopefully it's success. And again, make sure we get those postcards. But at least I know I'll get Luke's email, so.
Thank you.
Yep. Just make sure you see Debbie at some point.
Wasn't gonna look that long. They love Kevin.
Yeah, but do you really want to drink it?
No, I know.
I know.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Neil.
You guys could have come up and talked.
Yeah. All right. Ooh. Next item on the agenda, MRA Sports Summer Program. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is that time of year again, as we've done for, I think, 6 years or 7?
Yeah, 6 years.
6 years, wow. Alex is here to request support for his event. The board doesn't issue permission. You've kind of delegated that to my authority to make sure that all the documents are in place and everything's in line for the summer season. And Alex has submitted all the documents as required. He's currently awaiting a DEP approved permits. But again, last year's events went off flawlessly. And he did everything to return the camp to its original state after the events and remove the buoys shortly after the triathlons were complete and the summer season was done for the swimming. So I have no issues with that, but I wanted Alex to come before the board again and present his thoughts.
All right, Alex, why don't you introduce yourself to the community once again and tell us what's going on?
All right, good evening, guys. I'm Alex Rodozensky. My wife and I own MRA Multisport at Northbridge. So as Jim mentioned, this will be the 6th year that our triathlon club has used the camp down at Marion's Camp for our training. Right, so we usually are down there a number of days a week doing swimming training, and we do our biking out of there as well too. And then we also hold 2 events there. Right, so one's the summer solstice sprint triathlon. This year it's on Friday night, June 8th. And the second one is the Blackstone Valley Olympic Triathlon. So we've danced around the end of July, early August dates. This year moving into September 16th, Sunday, September 16th. So we struggle with numbers, so we try to move around some dates and see if there's less competition in the fall and see what that does for our numbers. So also helps kind of give people a little something to stay engaged throughout the summer as well, and keep them down there swimming. So.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, John, do you have any comments for Alex?
He's been here, we've drilled him. For so much stuff, but everything's always in order, Alex, and you're such a gentleman to work with. And, Jim will say the same thing, and I think it's great. The only thing I would mention is we had a town meeting last night, and we approved the Cottage Lodge as remodeling and everything, so we will notify them and everything. I'm sure that could be a tape coned off area to keep everyone out of there and stuff, and just do your program.
Great,
You know?
excellent.
Thanks, John. Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's funny, because I was going to say a similar thing, like, we've been through this so many times. We certainly appreciate that you come back every year and talk to us about it. It's a good public service that you do. It's helpful to us. As John mentioned, we had the town meeting last night. What we didn't do at the town meeting was approve our override to work on some roads, so they still may have some bumpy roads you got to deal with, but.
I noticed it down by the new police station, right? So we'll have to
Yeah.
keep an eye on Putnam Hill Road primarily, right, as the summer goes along.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask you quickly about the morning swims. How does that go? You get good attendance down there for those? And
We do, yeah. Once school is out,
Yep.
we'll have much better attendance.
Yeah.
Right, so usually it's, kids struggle, our parents struggle with the kids' schedules in the mornings,
Right.
right? So, but yeah, we have, during the week, we could have anywhere from, half a dozen or so people
Yep.
that come down there. Some folks show up a little earlier, get a run-in first, right, kind of before sunup, if you
Yep.
will,
Yep.
right? And then we get out there for those. So it's a good way to just start the morning, right? And then, a lot of people can just get back to their houses and shower and get off to work at a still reasonable hour, so.
And then you do a swim and a ride, so at some mornings you also go out for a ride?
Yeah, usually on the Saturday mornings.
Saturday mornings, okay.
Right, folks usually stick around and go out for a bike ride afterwards there. Sometimes during the evening swims, right, folks will bring their bikes as well too, and
Yeah.
they'll be there, as soon as we can to get in the swim, and then they'll try to squeak out a lap around the lake before it gets too dark.
Okay. And that's open to members, really? That's a member thing?
Just members only.
Okay.
Yep, yeah, so we don't, we don't advertise it or collect any non-member fees or anything, so we just offer this, opportunity to just our club members.
Okay. And if somebody was interested in joining the club, how would they reach you to do that?
Yeah, so right on the website, mramultisport.com, we have all information about the club, how to join the club, as well as a listing of all our events, how to sign up from that point of view.
Okay.
As well as, the coaching and training services that we have as well, too.
Excellent. So the only thing I would add is the same thing I guess I say every year. I think this is a great community event for the town. It draws people in, invites people that maybe don't get into Sutton often to find out what a great town we have and show off some of our assets. And you know, as John says, Goddard Lodge is gonna be, improved this year, and the site down there will be even better. So, love having you here and appreciate the great event that you put on. So, thanks. Continue, good luck.
All right, I'll be honest with you, I don't really have much to add. From my perspective, being on this board, the man to my right, his opinion is the one that I value the most, because I know if there was any shenanigans going on down at Marion's camp, he would be the first one to say. But, you know, every time you've been before us, for the 3 years that I've been on the board, you've gotten glowing praise from Mr. Hebert. So, in my book, that's good enough for me. I think this is wonderful. You're making use of our asset. It's beneficial to your members, and I think it's great. And I love the fact that you're gonna have 2 events. I love that you have a full schedule. And I do youth member try program. Is that something new?
Yeah, something we're gonna try this year. So we have 4 days on the calendar.
Yep.
So again, it's just for, you have to be a member of the club, right? So a lot of them are, we have the family memberships, right? So a lot of them are, kids of our club members already. So we're looking at, kind of keep it contained right now. So the ages that we're targeting are probably the 12 to 15-year-old group. We have a number of kids from the Crimson Aquatics swim team that are actually going to participate in the Summer Solstice Triathlon this year.
Wow.
Right, so that's one we've been trying to angle in there, and we have a club member whose daughter's very involved, so we're able to get some good inroads there with those guys. So it's good that they're having a good number of individuals as well as relay teams participate in the race, and so we want to kind of try to build on that kind of age group. So it's not a learn to bike, learn to swim, right? So it's again, the 12 to 15 kind of age group, just give them on the basics and introduce them to the sport, right? So again, the requirement, it's not going to be a learn to swim kind of program, right? It's really putting all the different sports together. So we have a couple of certified coaches within the club, in our group here, so they'll be there every time with them, right? So it's probably going to be more like a 3-to-1 ratio. Right? So we're looking at maybe at max, if we had 10 kids, we'd be ecstatic. But probably more than a handful of half a dozen kids what we'll have, and again at that higher age group, and just bring them together with open water swimming techniques and cycling and just running and tying it all together.
But even if you only end up with a half dozen, you're training the next generation. So that's wonderful.
Make sure we have our registrations for next year for the races.
There you go.
Right? So.
All right, yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, we don't have a motion on this because I'm sure Jim will make sure that everything's in order. And all I can say for myself personally is we wish you the best of luck, and we look forward to hearing the account when you come back in the fall.
Great, thanks.
When is the first event, triathlon?
June 8th.
June 8th.
Yeah.
And then Sunday, September 16th.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so I know we have club members itching to get in the water now. So
Yeah.
I think it's still a little cold. for them.
Crazy.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll try to get the buoys in.
Get the
maybe
wetsuits
this
on.
week.
Well,
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. Of course, no wetsuits.
I'll say this much. I did prep the water back in January, so it was chilly then, but hopefully it's warmer now.
I imagine,
All right, excellent, fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Alex.
Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
That's what we like to hear.
See you guys.
Take care.
All right, we'll see you soon. All right, next up tonight, we got a P&S for 126 Mendon Road. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just give me a second while I get to that agenda item. Again, this is something we've been working on for some time now. We identified a few key lots that are town-owned property, that have been town-owned property for a long time. One was the old leach field across the street from the high school. That now that we have a treatment center at the high school, middle school, high school, there's no longer a need for that land, and we sold that off about 6 months ago. We also identified the lot on the corner of Putnam Hill Road and Mendon Road. That lot was town-owned. It was given to the town by Ruth Putnam back in the 1920s. Her goal was to create a school at that location. And obviously, we now have a school system built on the old Devasian farm from pre-K to high school to 12th grade. So all of our schooling needs as far as facilities are taken care of for the long term. So we felt this land was appropriate to auction it off. So we did go through the proper procedures with getting the school department to surplus it and make it available. The abutter, Mr. Ed Newell, bid on it. He bid $1,500 for it, which was a little lower than I had hoped for, but still, I think the value is this lot goes back on the tax rolls. And we'll get additional tax revenue as a result of it, where for the previous 90-plus years, we received nothing for this. So to me, it's a win-win, and the purchase and sale is before you tonight for signature.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
John, do you have any comments?
Not a one.
Dave?
Same here, none.
Yeah, I have none either. So why don't we just go right to the motion?
Mr. Chairman, motion to sign the purchase and sale for 126 Mendon Road as authorized at the fall 2017 town meeting.
Second.
Hearing a motion second. Any further comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes 3-0. All right, next up, we have Town Administrator's Update. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few updates for the board's consideration. The first one is Early Learning Center sidewalks. We are going out to bid May 23rd for reconstruction of the Early Learning Center sidewalks. Our plan is to replace the asphalt sidewalks and make it handicap accessible. The hope is that this will be done through the summer from June to middle of August. So we've got to time it correctly. The issue with last year is, one, I don't believe we had enough money to get it done completely. And our timing was too late. We didn't go out and meet with the school department until late May, and it was too late to put together the RFP to get it done by the middle of August. So we've got additional money from the capital plan. Thank you to the residents of the town that appropriated that money. And now we're just setting it up, the timing perfectly at this point in time. Hopefully we get a winning bidder with the money we have available and get this work done in time. Newtown hours, not hours. This was an issue that the Teamsters brought up in their negotiations, and I ultimately agreed to it. The clerical union, typically on Tuesdays, begins work at 8, finishes at 4, then they go home and come back at 6:30 and work till 8:30 at night. During the middle of the winter, it's very difficult to come back at 6:30 and stay here until 8:30. They get home at 8:45. It's late. The kids are in bed or should be in bed. So the thought is we will have 8 to 6 o'clock, 10-hour workday, similar as a 10-hour workday that we currently have, but individuals will leave at 6 o'clock. The downside is people won't be here when the board comes in, and I understand that's an issue, but I felt that the union had a good point, and they felt like they wanted to go home and be done for the night at 6 o'clock. So it'll be some transition. I just wanted to start this discussion early and get it out there so people are aware of it, there will be some transition, but, Deb on Tuesday nights will go home at 4 and come back at 6:30 and get ready for the Selectmen's meeting. But when there's no meeting, she'll work 8 to 6 and then go home at 6 o'clock for the night. So that's that update. New website design. Pam Nichols is working with Virtual Town Hall to redesign the town's website. Pam is working with a number of different departments, getting design feedback, and ultimately the update will be done within the next 60 days. The website is a great tool that we have. It would try to keep it up to date and modern. So this redesign is a good time to have done. Town election will be held next Tuesday, May 22nd, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Precinct 1 and 3 will vote in the middle school gymnasium, and Precinct 2 will continue to vote in the Manchog Fire Station. The Memorial Day Parade will be held on May 28th. The kickoff will take place at the Town Common, and we'll have our, things done here at the Town Common, raising and lowering the flag and the 21-gun salute. And then we will march down to the middle school, high school for the presentations at that point in time. One last update, I just want to thank all of the town departments that worked so hard on the town meeting last night. I think they did a terrific job. I think, you know, you walk in that middle school or that high school Ramasco gym, and it was extremely well put together. The cameras and the sound system. It was up on the internet this morning on the YouTube, and video was perfect. The sound was good. Everything kind of worked out. And Jen Hager did a terrific presentation on the marijuana issues that were so confusing last fall. And I just want to thank everybody that made it work so well, including the moderator who did a terrific job, as we all know. That's all I have for updates, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thanks, Jim. John, do you have any comments for Jim?
Yeah, just for the record, on the Memorial Day Parade, that's starting the march at 11 a.m.?
Yes.
Okay. Little ceremony before, and then 11 a.m. And then the Legion's gonna go around to all the cemeteries?
Yes.
Jesse?
Yep,
Early?
yep, we're gonna make the rounds.
Meet at the Legion, what, 6:45? Set a time?
6:30 to 7. That's what they requested. Anything else?
That's all I have.
All right. Dave?
Very good, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the update, Jim, as always. Happy to hear about the Early Learning Center sidewalks. And, you know, again, appreciate work on the timing to try to get it done and disrupt the school as little as possible. We've talked about the town hall hours. I think that's just a logical thing to do, and you know, for it, you know, so a little education to the public for the for the people that do come in at the later hours. The feedback that I get is it's not particularly busy, and so we'll just have to adjust for the few people that have taken advantage of that in the past. But certainly for the disruption that it causes our employees, it makes sense. Personally, I think we'll miss the opportunity to hang out with those people when we get done with our meetings, but that's not worth the hours that are there just for that. So on the new town website, wasn't there maybe a grant application or something, the community compact thing that we tried to do with the transparency in government thing with the website?
That's actually a different a grant request, and that is for ClearGov system, which becomes effective July 1st, and then we'll have the implementation of that whole software update. But the town update website, they're going to a different I don't know what it is, like carrier provider on the internet.
Right.
And it cost us a little bit of money. We took it out of our budget this year to be able to fund it, but they are asking that we redesign the site, so we're working on that.
All right. I look forward to that. Pam will do a great job.
Sure.
It's interesting because you go around to different town websites and you can tell what service they use because there's a common theme among, you know, right? So there must be some common services that you use. So look forward to Memorial Day. And yeah, I appreciate your comments on town meeting last night. It was really, I mean, there was a lot of people there, and the decision to have it where we had it was the right thing to do. And I mean, everybody works hard to get those things ready every time. So, and certainly, personally, I'd like to thank Jen for all the hard work that she put on the marijuana topics. I mean, this was not just what she did last night. She's been working on this for months.
Yeah.
It's very confusing. Lots of outside visits that she made, and just a ton of learning over the issues. I mean, this has been an issue in flux for the last at least a year and a half, and she did great work. So I really appreciate what she did. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I don't really have much to add. The Early Learning Center, this is, of course, for the people who drop off there. This is the first school in the row of schools, so I'm assuming it goes from the playground, kind of just hooking around the building.
Yeah, you know, that's an ad alternate, actually. Our plan is to do the front of the building down to the, close to the beginning of the walkway to the elementary school.
Okay.
You know, due to the limitation on the funding, we had to do that, and we're also adding a handicap access off the handicap spots that are provided facing the playing fields.
Okay.
So we'll have a smooth transition to the sidewalk, and then people will be able to access the early learning center through parking in the handicap spots. So that's the original purpose, but then ultimately, if we have enough money, we will continue the paving along the side to the playground area, facing the early learning center parking lot.
Well, I think that's a huge need, because if memory serves me correctly, if you are handicapped, you have the sticker, you pull in, it's several feet to get to the walkway, and I think you have to even kind of go up over a bump.
Yeah.
So-
Well, it's not a appropriately designed handicap access, so we're going to make it ADA compliant.
Perfect. Well, long overdue.
Yep.
I have no issues with the town hall hours. We've been talking about that. New website, I'm assuming because we're upgrading, it will be smartphone friendly. Notice how I did the hand gesture. Because I know everything today, this is how people get their information.
Yeah.
So making sure that it's accessible on the smartphone will definitely be beneficial. Yay, town election's coming up. Hopefully a lot of people get out to vote. Memorial Day is always fun. Very excited about that. And town meeting was like a concert last night. I'll tell you, it was a wonderful crowd. It was well attended. People were respectful. People were compassionate and thoughtful. And kudos to everything and everyone that spent so much time making it come off without a hitch.
Yeah.
So hopefully going forward, this might be a better venue, so long as the people continue to come out and, express their thoughts and have a voice in their town.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think, that the setup, Laura Caruso and Chris Hicks and Pam and all the different staff that had checking in, the whole process worked flawlessly at that site. We had actually 2 check-ins on both sides, so it went fairly smooth. So we're considering that for maybe not the fall town meeting, but next May town meeting.
Perfect. I think that'll be wonderful. All right.
Hope we have that many people show up again.
That'd be nice.
It's
That'd be
terrific
nice.
to have that many people.
All right. Next up, we have announcements, Selectmen's Roundtable, and correspondence. John? Dave?
I want to take a moment if I could. I know we all want to go see a basketball game.
What, this basketball game on tonight?
He's dirty.
So last night was town meeting, and I just sort of feel compelled to comment. There hasn't been a lot of time to process it, and so I just had some thoughts there on off the top of my head, I guess. First of all, I love town meeting, and to have that many people show up is actually really exciting, and I'm grateful that people, whatever their reason, took the time to come out and participate in government. It's how it should work, and we're always better off when we have more people. I mean, that it's just better representation for the town. But trying to tie a few issues together. So, personally, I think Facebook is a dangerous place, but I was feeling a little apparently risky one night, and not too long ago, and I went on the Sutton site, and somebody had posted a comment that I thought was interesting. So this poster, it was a short post, and I can summarize it pretty quickly, basically said that in Sutton, our taxes are too high and our roads are terrible. And maybe you recall that post.
Oh, yeah.
But it was an interesting post, I thought, because actually I think you could talk to a lot of people in town and get some support on one side or another of that issue from a lot of people. But it's interesting to have both sides of those issues brought up together, because they're kind of opposing issues, right? That fixing the roads basically means higher taxes, so it's hard to have both. And so, the other thing that I wanted to note, Article 6 and Article 7 last night, the budget and the capital plan passed, virtually unanimously, without comment. And that's the way that it has been for really my memory. I really can't remember the last time that we've had any opposition to the
Any holds on any line item.
right. And so, we've talked about this before. I think that's kudos to your team, Jim. I think you guys do a great job of educating the town and having the town feel confident that the process that's in place and the numbers that are there are solid, are the right things for the town, and people understand that and vote accordingly. But one comment that the Finance Committee had in their recommendation for that article, I think is worth noting. And I didn't have it written down because we were having computer problems here earlier this evening, but essentially what they noted was things that we've talked about, that it's a solid budget, but there's really challenges in this budget as we look forward. And so to sort of put words in their mouth, you know, they discuss items like, you know, that there are structural deficits in our budget, and we have to be mindful of our budget position all the time. It's constant work. You can never really be satisfied with where we are because, you know, when you turn the corner, you got new problems to face. So with those two things in mind, my comments from last night were, we voted down an opportunity for new revenues, and that's fine. I'm not criticizing the vote, but at the same time, we also voted down an opportunity to improve our roads. And so the only point I'm making to this whole thing is, it's a confusing message. It's hard, for me as a selectman, it's sort of hard to read, you know, what the town is trying to tell us with these kinds of things, you know. So you mentioned to me, Jim, after the meeting last night that you had some further thoughts on what we might do with the roads. As you always do, you have backup plans and backup plans to the backup plans. That's a good thing. I know as you present those things to us, I'm going to have to take those sort of in the context of whatever message was sent to us last night. And I don't know how I'm going to really react to that. I have to think about it.
Yeah.
So that's all. To me, I came away from last night a little bit confused about what message the town is sending to us. So, like I said, I haven't really had time to process, and this meeting came quickly, so
Yeah.
thank you for the time. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, very thoughtful. And I'm going to concur with you completely. Again, it's you understand that the voters, when they vote with their heart and they're trying to send a message, but you're right. Okay, if taxes are too high and we have a revenue opportunity that's going to not put significant drain or impact on our services, and we're going to say no to that, but then you have another group of people complaining about the roads and we're going to say no to that, it just sounds like, here we go again, we're going to have another year and we're going to have the same issues. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. So I definitely have faith, as Dave does, in you. Then we'll come up with something.
Yep.
All right, and again, just like to reiterate my thanks that I posted on Facebook in terms of everyone that went out. I believe it was 610 registered voters, plus a couple other non-residents who attended, so it was awesome. Again, you feel like you're at a concert. You look out, you see a hall full of people, you see their eyes fixed, they're listening, and they're being involved, so that was a wonderful thing.
Yeah. They were hot.
And they were very hot. So maybe we're gonna have to get some, maybe foldable fans or something in next year's handouts, so that way they can.
Well, we have the air fan that the fire department has. We can bring that in.
Pump
Yeah.
that right in, that would be a good thing. All right, I have a couple of other points that I'd like to mention. I'd like to thank all those that went down to the Dudley Generate on Sunday morning. The Sons of the American Legion had their annual Mother's Day brunch, and it was extremely well intended. The food was tremendous. The Boy Scouts were there helping. You had the Legion Riders there, and it was a wonderful event. So thank you for everyone who was involved in that. Also, on Saturday, I had the privilege of presenting our recognition to Samuel Hearn, the Eagle Scout. And I've known Sam since he was a young man. He happens to be in the same age group as my son, although Sam ended up going to Whitensville Christian. But I met him first when he was in second grade, and I actually shared this to the audience that, you know, that was the bubble class for a lot of years. There was 160-odd kids in that group. But, you know, being an active parent, I got roped in and did a couple of field trips. And there was one trip that we came back from Plymouth that Sam just ended up sitting behind me, and he talked to me for the whole bus ride home. And I was amazed at this young man because he talked to me like an adult. And it was just, he's a second grader, and we're having this adult conversation, and his name stuck with me. And then I get to go and present him the certificate years later, and to find out, in order to become an Eagle Scout, you have to earn 21 badges. He earned 47. There were, I believe, 56 other Eagle Scouts that have come through this troop, and no one has even come close. So not only did he overachieve, but he was also on the younger side too. I don't know if he's 17 yet, but he's definitely 16. Last year, the Eagle Scout winners, or people who are in that rank, I believe they're all close to 18. So this young man, he, as I said to everyone, is exceptional. And at least for me personally, I wish him all the future luck in the world, because he's going to be a name that we're going to hear about again. All right, last thing I have up is just a quick food pantry list. Again, they're looking for basic hygiene supplies. So individual toothbrushes, razors, both men and women's, deodorant, both men and women's, dish soap, laundry detergent, cleaning supplies, and paper towels.
Chairman, may I make one more comment?
Sure.
I neglected to say this. At our last meeting, the Manchog Pond Association was here, and they talked about...
Foundation.
Thank you. Foundation was here. And they talked about doing a boat tour for us, kind of a reprisal of something that happened a few years ago. But instead of that, they actually were able to arrange... Oh, in addition to that,
Yes,
okay.
That's
great.
coming in the summer.
They actually arranged a plane tour for us. Did you guys get a chance to go?
Not yet.
All right.
It's coming.
So they have a local resident that is a longtime pilot and has recently purchased a private plane and graciously offered to give us plane tours of the area. And so Jesse and I went, and I know Mike and Joe McKenna went together right after we did. It was a spectacular day. And it gave us great air tours of the area. We got to sort of see the solar sites, the proposed solar sites that were there, and lots of other interesting local high spots. So it was, we just appreciate the opportunity. It was a lot of fun. And you guys should definitely do it. It's worth it.
I agree. I agree.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Quite welcome. Thank you for bringing that up. I completely slipped my mind. All right. How about I entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously.